Welcome back to another CTD week. This time we're around the infamous Nürburgring. We're very excited about tonight. We are changing up our usual race schedule, opposed to instead of our two 20-minute races as we usually do. Tonight we're doing one big long qualifying session leading up to a 35-minute race around the ring for our drivers tonight. Qualifying sessions are a bit tricky here. We want to give everybody an equal opportunity and as much time as possible to get that lap time on the board, get their positions farther up the grid. So as we wind down these last couple minutes of qualifying, Alex and I are going to get this going. With me tonight we have Alex Aquaman Patterson.
Well, hello. Yeah, it looks like it will. We were talking before the broadcast about whether the drivers can finish their lap before they cross the finish line, and in the event of the checkered flag, and it turns out they will. They're giving them 10 minutes of added time to finish any lap they're on. So, yeah, you know, the rules bend for the Nürburgring. You know, everything is different. Qualifying is different, racing is different, and then evidently the iRacing systems are different as well. Looking at the results, though, Andrew Slovak, unsurprisingly, a good 4 seconds ahead of Jaiming Zheng, who is the ringmaster, and then in third is Carter Price with a very nice 7-12.
So speaking about the Nürburgring running a little bit differently, you know, a lot of these drivers are used to these 20-minute sprint races, and I heard during the driver briefing definitely some recommendations to take it easy those first 20 minutes or so. Make sure you're leaving that energy, so that you're storing that energy, I should say, throughout that entire race. It's going to be pretty interesting, especially seeing, like you said, these low 7-minute lap times. That is very rapid for how many corners and how much concentration this place takes.
Yeah, I'm really excited to see whether we're going to get some good racing. The Nürburgring is the kind of track where there can be a lot of variability in everybody's skill. There's so many corners, so much time you got to put into learning it, and on top of that, we have skill differences as well. So I'm really hoping we see some good racing. We're not going to be able to name the corners for you.
But might be a little tough this week.
Yeah. But yeah, I'm excited. You know, the Nürburgring is one of the most famous tracks. It is one of the most infamous tracks for sure. And it is the favorite track of the F1 World Champion Max Verstappen. He just walked into that place and set a lap record and walked out.
And with that being said, this is a bucket list track for so many drivers. Everybody wants to master this track. Everybody wants to learn how to go fast here. You know, with Max Verstappen notoriously building up his pace on the sim in some practice sessions, all the way up to, I believe it was an NEC race, or what that race actually is in real life, whatever that's named. So yeah, it's you know, it's a big track, and a lot of guys are very determined to master this place.
Absolutely, and this can also be seen as the run-up to the special event, the Nürburgring 24, where you have to keep a car going around the Nürburgring for 24 hours. And that includes, you know, 8 hours of night driving. That includes any rain that comes through. It can get messy. And the amount of practice you have to put into this track, because it is so large, dwarfs any other track by a huge margin. But it also makes it, in my opinion, like the most special of the special events.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Every year, this is the Nürburgring 24 is definitely my favorite event. It's the one I practice the most for. It's the one I'm most excited to get to. And even the sprint races, they're just fantastic. It's the only official race where the time might be extended purely because it takes that long to get around this place.
Absolutely. Yeah, we still have a couple drivers out on track. Take a look and see how they're doing. We actually might have one, and that is Malik Atwell. He looks like it's coming down the back straight.
We'll ride on board with him. I do believe Stephen James is also in the car right now.
Stephen James, our newest graduate. Congratulations to him. Him and Chris Sears have already graduated this season, and I think their success goes to show that you get what you put in. You get out what you put in sim racing. They worked really, really hard this season. We're always in the Discord, and they just shot through the ranks.
Yeah, absolutely. You said it best. The more you put into this, the more you get out of it. The more you want to learn, the more energy you bring to the table, and the harder you work, the faster you go, and the more you learn.
All right, I don't see anybody else out on track. Do you?
I don't believe so. I think that's going to conclude our qualifying session.
All righty.
Looks like race control is still winding down that stopwatch. So in the meantime, we'll take a look at our weather report here. So we have track conditions of 70 degrees, nice cool temperatures coming into this fall season. Our air temp 66, again nice and crisp. Might need a hoodie if you're a spectator, but I'm sure these guys are going to be a little bit sweaty driving around this place with all the pressure of a full grid.
Yeah, looking like perfect weather for racing and spectating too. We're comfy in our hoodies.
Soon we'll have our Chasing the Delta hoodies to wear, representing the
Yes.
group and the team. We're very excited to get those, show them off to all of our millions and millions of fans out in public and at our real racing events IRL. It'll be a very exciting time.
Yeah, and when they go on public sale, we know that we'll see everybody in them as well. It's already hard enough for us to keep all the fans out of our hair, but this is going to be even harder because they're just going to flock to the chasing the Delta sweatshirt.
So in the past, I know you've ran quite a bit of Nürburgring races. What's your biggest takeaway for this track? What's the racing like? What's your mindset looking like? Give me some general thoughts around racing here.
Yeah, I mean, really the number one thing is practice. Practice, practice, practice. Get as many hours as you can on this track before you do any sort of racing on here. It is a punishing track. It's hard enough to just remember where you are, much less what comes next and how to do it quickly. So the number one thing is that the most practiced drivers typically do the best here. The second thing is even though the Nürburgring 24 tends to be the drivers versus the track as much as it's the drivers against the other drivers. And so the racing here tends to be, because of all the variability, it tends to be, I would say not as exciting, but it is exciting to watch the drivers do their best, go fastest while also keeping the car out of the barriers. So I'm hoping we get to see some racing here. Um, and we'll just get to, admire some of the pace these guys have.
Definitely well said. It's going to be an exciting night. As you mentioned earlier, we have varying skills all up and down the grid. I'm sure there'll be races all over the place. We're gonna have to go chopper view very often to catch a lot of these battles. I'm sure. Um, with how narrow the track is as well, that's gonna make our competition very very tricky. I'm sure.
Absolutely. And that's the thing. This is a narrow street track. So this is going to be, passing is at a premium. A lot of passes happen on the very, very long back straight. Um, there are some really high speed sections. There's one that we call the fighter pilot section, where if you try to go for a pass there, you're insane. Um, so for such a large track, the passing opportunities um, really come to those who know the track inside and out and know how to take different lines, go through the track, and um, get one up on the people just taking their regular lines.
Absolutely. On top of that, the pressure that it takes just to drive around here solo, on top of the pressure that cars behind might be putting on you, that is something I don't think anybody is quite envious of. Looks like our race director is very happy with our qualifying laps from everybody. Going down our starting grid, we have Andrew Slovak, P1. He is our one of our first graduates in the program. Absolutely flying, landing on pole position, followed by James Zhang, our ringmeister in P2, Carter Price in P3, followed by Alejandro Rangel in P4, Greg Calabria in P5, Chris Sturks in P6, Adam McNeil in P7, followed by James Campbell in P8, Jeremy Toasty in P9, followed by Malik Alawal in P10. I'm going to apologize now because I'm sure I'm saying that wrong.
All right, we only have 20 seconds to go. We luckily don't make them do the full out lap. We will start on the back straight, and we will get the show on the road. I'm really looking forward to see how the drivers navigate this first lap. The tires are going to be cold. The NERBs might be a little higher than usual. We'll see how many make it through.
Yeah, as always, that turn one is just diabolical, and especially around here. Man, is it the bottleneck of a corner. Like you said, cold tires, lots of pressure. Everybody wants to make a good, clean run into T1, but everybody wants to make that run at the same time. It's going to be very interesting to see how this unfolds in our first handful of minutes here.
Yeah, and the first section of the Nordschleife is a pretty tricky one. It doesn't get easy for a long time to drive the Nürburgring, so they're going to have to navigate what is approximately 5 full sectors of track before they get any sort of break. So getting through that first lap is as important as anything else.
Very true.
And there's also a difference between practicing the Nürburgring and racing the Nürburgring.
Also, very true. Now we do have some fast repairs in our series, so hopefully nobody has to take advantage of those. But as we get going here, green flag off. Andrew Slovak getting quite the jump coming into T1. Let's hope nobody has any carnage they need to fix.
Yeah, let's see. They're going to go around the first turn here. Now this next section is a fast one. You're typically able to take this at full throttle, but with the cold tires, they're definitely going to have to brake. And Slovak hits the wall. Or that wasn't Slovak. Somebody hit the wall. No, that was Jimeng Jing. Taking that a little too fast, and we'll see if his car needs some repairs. It doesn't look like it. We do have a very nice battle here for second with Jimeng Jing, Carter Price, and Alejandro Rangel. And ooh, Alejandro almost loses it, and now he's going to lose the place to Greg Calabria. Actually barely touched Carter, and that unsettled his car, but that was a really, really skillful save.
Ooh, and James just off a little bit wide in that first sector, and he's going to let several cars through.
Yeah, like I said, this place is tough on cold tires. We do call him the ringmeister. There's a reason that the ring is so infamous. So far, so good. Not to jinx it. We head around the Ehrenberg. The commentator's curse can be pretty strong, but this has been a relatively clean start to this race.
Boy, am I notorious for ruining people's races as soon as I comment on them, aren't I?
Yes, you are.
Apologies to all of our drivers. It's not on purpose. I promise I don't have any voodoo dolls. Just is the way it is.
Yeah, we did have Nicholas Cox go off track and lose a couple positions through the foxhole, which is a very difficult. It is a left-hander that you have to send over a crest in 5th gear. Oh, do we have a crash?
I did hear a crash. It looks like Matthew Coley having to retire the car to a mechanical issue. I don't know if that was running into the wall or something else. It looks like Alex Lofi also in the pit lane. He's been on quite the run this season. That's a devastating one.
Yeah, and Vaibhav Narawanaswamy is also meatballed. So we'll see if they can get the cars around. Towing takes forever, as you can imagine. So if they can drive it back, the better. It doesn't look like Vibe can. Looking back on the accident between Vibe and Alex Lofi, unfortunately, Vibe got two wheels into the grass, couldn't stop the car enough, and just ran right into the back of him.
That is a shame. That's cold tires striking again, unfortunately. Maybe
Yeah,
with
we have another car in the barrier, and that will be Keith Winup. Who unfortunately lost control of the car at the, I think, the beginning of Sector 4, and I don't know if he's meatballed, but that was a hefty hit. Somebody is just crashed as well. This looks like Adam McNeil. He did. He loses control on his own through hit miss. Doesn't look like he'll have to retire the car unless somebody hits him, which I don't think anybody does. But he's in a track where it is a 7-point turn to get it going again. So he'll drop down in the order.
Yeah, that is unfortunately one of the most narrow spots on the track. Very, very little runoff, just about a car's width to the Armco. And that is, like you said, a 7-point turn and an Austin Powers to get going again.
It really was. He had to, and you doing it when you can't see what cars are coming and just relying on your relative, it can be very stressful. You have a battle between Alejandro Rangel and Jaimin Zheng. Zheng is not letting him get past. Zheng is all over Alejandro's rear, and Alejandro is keeping his distance. This battle is for 4th place. Alejandro almost loses it going through this section of the track. Barely keeps it on. You know, there is very little space between the road and the barrier. So you get very little leeway in order to save any cars. And again, these cars are still on full tires. Like, they're still really, really struggling to warm them up and getting friction out there.
Absolutely. It looked like during a lot of the practice sessions, it was taking almost a full lap for these tires to get up to temperature before you can even consider pushing them. You know, this first lap is definitely, hey, let's get this race going. Let's make sure we're in this race long term. And these guys, they're not keeping it as conservative as I would expect. Definitely pushing 10/10ths.
Yeah, so if we're on board with Alejandro, we can look as they come through Kevin's corner, named after my cousin. They're going to get to the jump, and this is a very fast section of the track where the elevation changes so much that the car actually jumps off the track for a little bit. And then we go into a very fast section of the track that we referenced earlier, the fighter pilot section. With the tires all the way warmed up, this is a full throttle set of corners. And it is very, very tough. It looks like they were both able to navigate it quite well.
A little bit of different car behavior coming from these two drivers. Alejandro and James taking a little bit different lines. The car is getting set up for the corner a little bit differently. We're not seeing any massive advantages from either driver. Right now they're just maintaining the pace, but coming onto this back straight, there is a draft to take advantage of.
Yeah. And do you remember what the straight is called, Aaron?
Oh, I butcher it every time. It's the Dottinger Straight, but I know I'm not saying that correctly.
The Dottinger Straight, I believe. And we are going to see Jimeng Zhang go for the pass here. And there is still lots of straight to go. So he's going to have to brake late but hard, since he'll be on the outside for this corner. And Alejandro will just do the smart thing and tuck him behind him.
And as you say that, he opens that corner right back up, putting him under pressure. Looks like he's backing off into the braking zone, wants to make sure he survives this heavy, heavy braking zone. That's got to be 160 miles an hour all the way down to, what would you say, 40, 50?
Yeah, I mean, it's a very long braking corner as well, and he's going to come right to the back of Greg Calabria. So it's really amazing how well Jiming took that turn. He gained almost a second and a half on him there. Unfortunately, we have two more meatballs. Kevin Cohen and Brandon Foltz appear to have meatballs.
That is a shame for both of those guys, too. I know they're having terrific race starts there. Hopefully they can recover with our roughly 26 minutes to go.
Yeah, unfortunate. Going through a really twisty part of the track, Kevin Cohen lost the rear of his Dale Earnhardt Porsche, hit the barrier once, hit the barrier twice, and these hits are heavy. But he should be able to get it back to the pits. Maybe get a fast repair and get right back out there on track. Bolt also took his fast repair. Meanwhile, this battle for third is side by side through a very narrow section of the track, and Greg Calabria is just barely going to keep his lead over Jimeng Jing there. But you know, these cars are starting to gain better tires. The drivers are able to push a little bit faster, and we're going to see some pace differences pop up.
That is a three-car battle for P2. It looks like Andrew Slobach is pulling away. He definitely has the advantage here. His pace is fantastic. He's doing a very good job of maintaining.
Oh, Greg Calabria off the track, and that is going to let Jimeng Jing through into third, and also Alejandro Rangel into fourth. That is a tough place to lose it on this track. But luckily, he kept it out of the barriers. His car is great, and you can pick himself back up through hit, miss, and try to catch the drivers he just let through.
Still lots and lots of race to go as well. We have 25 minutes on the dot to finish this up. There's still going to be plenty of opportunities for this battle for P2 to continue on.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to seeing how this shapes out. You know, this is a war of attrition, the Nürburgring. You know, driving it perfectly for 35 minutes is no easy task for anybody. So, you know, we'll see what happens. We do have a battle for P10. Christopher Gardner versus Stephen James, again, our newest graduate. Stephen is putting the pressure on him. He might go for a pass on this section of the track. This is, again, a very narrow section of the track, but a long, flat surface where you can catch your breath if you're driving.
Staying in the draft is key here as we come up to the fastest corner on the track. It's very tricky to pick your marks when you're following another car, and it looks like Steven does the job very, very nicely. Still right on the bumper of Chris Gardner.
Yes, and they're going to head into the infamous carousel here in a couple corners. And that is a very easy place to lose time, so let's see how they navigate this. Through the carousel. I don't know about you, Aaron, but for me, when I hit the carousel, like, I'm like, okay, halfway done. Like, you know, that's my, like, sort of midpoint. That's my, like, mid marker.
That's definitely what it feels like. You know, the first half of this lap, I believe the carousel is roughly 35-40% of the way through, and the roller coaster section, at least based off of distance, is about that halfway mark. But man, those first handful of sectors makes it feel like this track is just forever. So I definitely agree that the carousel feels like that halfway point. You get to remove the stress of that first part of the track. The roller coaster section into the fighter jet section being one of my personal favorites, so maybe that's why I look forward to it as well.
Yeah, and let's talk a little bit about the roller coaster section. So, learning the track is very difficult for anybody. I personally found this to be one of the most difficult parts to learn because all of the tracks, oh, that
Chris
is going to be
Gardner
Christopher,
off.
and that is going to let him through. Um, there's like 10 different corners. They all look the same. They all have their little, like, sort of nuances to them that make them all very difficult. And you have to string together a very, very nice bit of driving. As Steven is going to get ahead of Michael Gonzalez as well.
Yeah, it sounded like a little bit of an incident there with the arm co for Michael. Just a little bit of a brush, but it looks like his car is okay. He's still going. That car's still looking nice and planted.
Yeah, that was a really nice save by Michael.
Now, coming back to your point with the roller coaster section, I couldn't have said it better myself. It's such a tricky sector. Like you said, everything kind of looks the same, and it's more of a memorization of this apex looks a particular way um, versus another, and that's kind of the mindset that I at least approach that section with. It's a game of memorization. After this corner, how do I need to set myself up for the next corner, and the corner after that, and the corner after that. Once you go through YouTube corner, you know you're a little bit in the clear. Once you finish the jump and you keep the car calm, cool, collected on the landing, you're pretty much out of the danger zone and into the fighter pilot section. So it is
What did you call it? The YouTube corner?
yeah, YouTube corner. I forget the actual name of it. It's something along the lines of Bronchit or like I said, I'm sure I'm butchering that one as well. I am not good at pronouncing any of these names, especially if they're German. But YouTube
Yeah, I know. Like,
corner, go ahead.
no, we call that Kevin's corner because during our first Nürburgring 24-hour race, my cousin Kevin, every single lap went off the track during his night stint.
Oh boy, yeah, it's that's a tough one. It is a very very tough one. It feels like you can carry a lot of speed, and in the grand scheme of things, it's actually very very tricky to get that minimum speed dialed in just right.
Meanwhile, our battle for third has not gone anywhere, and Alejandro is right on Jimeng Zhang's bumper. He might actually go for a pass here.
Zhang taking the defensive line into this corner, puts his car perfectly in the spot of defending. There's nowhere for Alejandro to go.
Very nice through the Ehrenberg hairpin. That left-hander right before that hairpin is a lift and a prayer.
If it was Ross Chastain, he would say, I'm not lifting the pedal before I see God.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that makes the Nürburgring so tricky is, oh, James is going to go off the track, but still going to keep his position. Ooh, good save.
And Greg Calabria just waiting there patiently. He knows these guys are going to continue fighting, and he just has to bide his time and take advantage of the opportunities that present themselves.
Yeah, and with P5 10 seconds back, he knows that, he doesn't, or P6 is 10 seconds back, so he knows that he doesn't have to do anything other than take opportunities when he gets them. But what I was saying before, Nürburgring has some very significant elevation changes. Like they are going through the German countryside here. And I would say more than any other track are these sort of blind, crested corners that make things so difficult.
Yeah, I was listening to somebody try to explain what the Nürburgring is like, and the percentage of corners that are blind is somewhere around the number of 90 to 95%, which is just an insane amount of corners that you can't see the end of.
Yeah, and if you do want to point out that Alejandro did get past Jimeng Zhang's when Zhang went off in the hit miss section.
And it looks like Greg Calabria has a full steam of power here. He's catching James ever so slightly coming into this next right-hander, leading on to one of the second longest straightaway here.
Man, this is going to be close. You know, James is a very, very experienced Nürburgring driver. He thinks he has less experience with the new tire model, so he's using all of his knowledge to, figure out how to stay comfortable on this demanding track.
It looks like our next closest battle is still between Stephen James and Michael Goncalves. 1.2 seconds separating these drivers.
Yeah, and Stephen has widened the gap a little bit over these last couple corners. In our battle for third, James Zhang is still right on the back of Alejandro Rangel, but Greg Calabria has fallen back a little bit. He had a really difficult run out of the carousel, and that's what put the space in between him and James.
Now we do have roughly 2 laps after we finish this current lap to go. As long as he can stay within that within that draft, there's still a lot of opportunity for him to get up to that P3 spot.
Yeah, I think they're rolling through a roller coaster right now. Or no, this is Fighter Pilot. So that Dottinger straight, is coming up, and as long as you're in the draft, you have a chance to pass. And it also should be noted too that we do have a few people running other cars, but we are using the fixed setup, which means that everybody has an equal amount. Everybody in the Porsche at least has an equal amount of downforce. In other Nürburgring races, teams typically have to make the decision on whether they want to run high downforce and have a grippier Nordschleife, but lose a ton of time on Dottinger, or they run low downforce, deal with it, and then they just breeze by people on the long Dottinger straight. So everybody here is running with equal machinery.
And through the second carousel, it looks like James Zhang went wide off track a little bit. That brings Greg right back into his slipstream, coming onto the Dottinger.
He's going to give Alejandro some room to breathe.
I'm sure he's very grateful for that at the time.
It doesn't look like Greg's going to really be able to catch up to him here. James is doing a good job of, weaving slightly and making Greg focus to stay in his draft. But it doesn't look like there's going to be a pass here into the hard braking zone at the beginning of the track. Both of them are able to navigate it quite well. And around again we go.
That'll be 2 laps to go. Although these laps are very, very long, boy, is it exciting to ride along with some of these guys. Michael Goncalves.
Whoa!
And a
That is a
big,
huge
big
crash.
shunt.
Oh, that is definitely going to be a meatball car for James Zhang. That is tragic. He was doing so well, but hit a curb going through that first sector and just binned it. Oh man, running a super good race up until then. But that's the Nürburgring. There's just no safety. The only time you really get to breathe is on the Donninger Straight. And if you're in somebody's draft and weaving back and forth, then you still have to focus.
Absolutely. You just cannot let your mental focus breathe. Even like you said on that back straight, you're still planning out how you're going to approach those first couple of sectors, making sure you survive, making sure you build that gap up to the car behind.
So, Aaron, tell me about what it's like to run a 3 a.m. night stint on the Nürburgring during the 24-hour race.
Oh man, that is a love or hate stint, depending on who you are. Myself, I definitely like to stay up late. I am not an early bird. That late night stint, it's something special. You're getting a little tired, maybe a little delirious, depending on how long you've been up. Maybe you're a little caffeinated, or whatever it takes, basically, to stay awake. And you're on track with so many other drivers that are going through the same thing. Maybe they're getting they're getting sleepy. They're making a little mistake here or there. They're going off track, and a lot of that 3 a.m. middle of the night stint is just keep the car on the track, keep ticking those laps off. Uh, you know, if you have pace on the other
Oh,
cars,
and Alejandro just crashed, and I think he might have lost his rear wing.
that is a missing rear wing, and that's going to let Greg Calabria right on
Uh,
through at some point. It looked like he was
it's gonna
setting up a
happen.
pass.
You sort of need your wing on this track, and
And a big,
Alejandro is
big
very
twitch
timely.
from Alejandro.
Oof. That is a car that needs some repairs. I wonder whether Alejandro, if he's able to even get it around the track, knows that he needs to pit for this.
That's a good question. With how big that twitch was, I can only assume he knows he has massive aero damage there.
Yeah, but for whatever reason, iRacing doesn't tell you, like, oh, you lost your wing. It just says we've got big aero problems. And I wish they would be a little more specific about that.
It would be nice, if you press that damage report button and hear from your spotter, a lot of times they'll just tell you that you have aero damage. Uh, you know, that's not that helpful.
And again, Alejandro. I think Alejandro will just have to pit anyway. We also don't know yet whether there is a mandatory pit stop.
Yeah, that is to be
You know,
seen.
we are running the fixed setup. It is fueled for 20 minutes, and we don't know whether there's enough to get everybody all the way through. So I guess we'll find out. We'll say now, this is a very brave drive by Alejandro.
Now, I can't blame him for trying. With a 9-second gap to Jeremy Toasty, I can only imagine, maintaining that track position. Oh, and a big, big slide into the wall, and that's going to ruin his race for good.
That is unfortunate. Alejandro and James Zhang both running beautiful races until what they call the green hell took them away from us. We do have a battle for sixth with James Campbell and Stephen James, and Stephen is right on James's bumper.
Coming into the carousel, we'll see who manages a better exit out of here, and Steven leaves the ditch of the carousel, and that's going to let James Campbell pull away just a little bit coming into the roller coaster section.
Yeah, so the carousel is a weird corner. It's like a banked hairpin. And you just basically have to feel when you're at the end of it. You can't see the end of it. So it's very easy to sort of stop steering a little bit too early, and you lose traction. You get a terrible exit out of the carousel, and you lose a ton of time. It's very common.
It's a very deceiving one as well. You can feel so confident getting into the carousel. And if just a little bit too much throttle, maintenance throttle, you wind up right outside of that ditch or that camber that you're driving in, and suddenly the lap time and the speed is just non-existent.
We do have this battle raging. It should be noted that Steven was about a second and a half quicker last lap than James was. James is running really, really well, though.
I do believe this is one of James's best performances so far this season. I think this is the highest we've seen him up on the grid in the middle of the race so far. And I already know, unfortunately, I've probably commentator cursed that, so I hope he can hang on.
R.I.P. James. Your destiny is cast in stone. So we do have Andrew Slovak.
And Steven makes the dive coming up the inside and gets past James.
Dang. I did not see that one coming. But James actually hit the curb a little bit going through that corner, and that slowed him down just enough for Steven to get side by side into the apex, and that was a very nice pass, and he's going to try to look to build some gap here.
Now that's an interesting move coming onto the back straight. That's so long with that draft. With that said, there's almost a second and a half gap there already, and James is going to really struggle to close that, even with the draft.
Yeah, and as Andrew Slovak passes the finish line, we are now on white flag. We have one more trip around this place to go.
Now, I don't believe we've seen anybody pit for fuel just yet. I'll be very curious to see if we have any retirements because of their cars running out of fuel.
Yeah, it seems like nobody's getting told by their spotter that they have to pit. So there seems to be just enough fuel to get the drivers through.
Now, something to note, Andrew Slovak, our current leader, with a 12-second gap to Carter Price in P2. They are a Pro and AM class difference, but Andrew's yet to drive a clean lap. Alejandro Rangel has our fastest clean lap at a 7:11.25 second lap time.
Even more tragic that his race ended the way it did, because that is a extremely quick lap. For context, the best lap by Greg Calabria is a 7:17.
Looks like our next closest battle on grid is between Matt Cheeseman and Brandon Foltz, separated by about a second and a half. Coming onto this last 4 minutes or so onto our last lap, there's definitely opportunities for Cheeseman.
Yeah, Cheeseman's going to have to pick up the pace a little bit, because Brandon Foltz is quite a bit faster than him, according to our timing screen here. So whether Brandon can catch or pass Cheeseman is going to be an interesting storyline.
In the meantime, we'll ride on board with Brandon Foltz's car, taking a look at what it looks like to drive around this place as he hunts down Matt Cheeseman, trying to make that pass at least set up, whether or not he gets around.
Yeah, they're going to start their final lap as they come around and pass the start-finish line. So here we are into the first sector. Already Matt Cheeseman goes very wide, but then Brandon goes a little too narrow. And they just sort of canceled each other out there.
Now, massive kudos to both of these drivers, making sure they give plenty of space to each other. Definitely want to make sure that they finish the race, opposed to trying to make that cheeky pass in case something goes wrong with the other driver.
Yeah, we really didn't have or haven't had any like driver on driver incidents. It's very much been the driver versus the track this race.
Foltz getting a bit of a run there, backs out last second right before he goes for a pass.
We also have, looks like the 4 to 7 drivers are all within about a second of each other. But this battle looks like it's going to stay more interesting.
Now, for what it's worth, we do have our two most recent grads looking to fight each other for position in P5 and P6. We'll have to keep an eye on that in case that gap decreases any.
Yeah, that would be an interesting battle.
Foltz and Cheeseman coming into Foxhole up over the hill. Everybody looking nice and calm through this section. They know as soon as I get through here, I can start to push the car a little bit harder.
Yeah, and then after this, there's sort of a left-hander and then a right-hander, and then the opening to the miss-hit-miss section, which has its name because the way it's structured, it's like a double apex, but you have to miss the first apex to hit the next one, and then miss the next one in order to hit the next one. Nürburgring is the place where you learn to set up your entries into the next corner by sacrificing your exits. Jeremy Tosti has all of a sudden found himself under some pretty significant threat by Chris Sears for fourth.
And immediately behind him, Stephen James, only a half a second.
Right, we're going to get some racing. Chris is going to find himself in the attacker and defender position. So we should see him yo-yoing between looking for a move and then preventing Stephen from making a move. It is a difficult place to be.
Now, thinking, if I'm Toasty, how am I approaching the situation? And I'd love to hear your thoughts on that.
I am just running my race. He's in the, I would say, better position of being ahead. Like, he doesn't have the draft, but he is able to dictate how the race goes and make the other people beat him. So I think he just stays the course, runs his race. Chris Sears is going to go just out of the barriers, and then through the jump, he's going to get past. Oh, that was close. But Stephen James is able to get through and maybe put some pressure on Toasty. We are reaching, we are going to run out of time in terms of watching this thing. Like, it will conclude pretty soon as they head around the last carousel. They're going to get to the Donninger Straight, and we're going to see whether the draft is enough for either of these cars to pass. We also say that Andrew Slovak is currently crossing the finish line, and that is going to make him our race winner for the Nürburgring. Very, very nicely done.
No flashing lights from Andrew. A little surprised he's not a little bit more excited to win that one. That's followed by Carter Price in P2 as he crosses that final corner, and we'll check back in for that battle with P3. Steven just about 3/10 back. I don't know if he has enough steam to get past Toasty coming into these last couple corners.
This is going to be close. They are going to just get side by side. Toasty goes to the inside. It's going to be a battle of braking there, side by side for fourth.
And Toasty backs out of it early, lets Steven all the way through.
Maybe smart if he's not confident in this braking. And that is going to Stephen James going from 6th to 4th in the final lap on a track where we didn't see a lot of battling.
Chris Sirks coming in at P6. James Campbell right behind them in P7, followed by Michael Goncalves in P8. Adam McNeil coming down the back straight here. He's about 28 seconds off of that lead pack there.
And that's every single driver should be proud that they survived this race in racing conditions. It is a long slog and a tough track.
Definitely the hardest combo we have on the calendar this season. The lap feels like it's never going to end. Excuse me. A little bit of
Just like consent.
a allergy fit there, I think. But yeah, the lap feels like it's never going to end here. So kudos to all of our drivers for seeing the end of this race through.
Yeah, and to Aaron Myers for finishing that sentence.
It was a struggle, but if you don't finish, then what's the point? So.
Exactly.
And Nicholas Cox, in CTD fashion, binning the car into T1. He is upside down without a front end, a wing, or probably peace of mind at this point.
Yes, this can also be a very frustrating track as well, for sure. You actually had at the end Chris Sears track down Stephen James and bin him into Ehrenberg. And Keith went up, I believe that was helpfully aiding them along. All right, well, let's take a look at our results.
Once again, a big congratulations to all of our drivers finishing this race. Andrew Slovak from lead, pole position, lead the entire race, finishing in P1. He is our pro winner, followed by Stephen James in P2 and Chris Sirks in P3. Our newest graduates, so kudos to them. Carter Price, P2 overall. It's just a matter of time before that guy graduates. He definitely owes us some officials and some positive I rating. Greg Calabria in P2, followed by Jeremy Toasty in P3. I think that's a first podium for him this season. So congratulations to all these guys. A massive well done, and kudos to making it damn near 45 minutes, almost a single stint. So good job to those guys.
Yeah, and next week we have the beautiful and historic Interlagos track to look forward to. So we're going to be on a more traditional racetrack where the Brazilian Grand Prix is held, and we will see you then.
Thanks everybody for watching, and we'll see you guys next week.
Alrighty, take it easy.